The alarm on my wrist screamed before I even reached the docking bay door, and my heart was already pounding harder than it ever had in my life. I was Daniel Hart, a station technician who fixed broken pipes and tired engines, and in exactly 4 minutes, I was about to become the center of the most important event humanity had ever faced. Nobody had warned me. Nobody had prepared me. I was still wearing my work clothes, stained with grease, when the doors of Dock 7 slid open, and the first alien delegation in human history stepped onto our station. I remember the cold air hitting my face first, then the silence. A silence so heavy it felt like the whole station was holding its breath. Rows of tall, pale blue figures stood in perfect formation, their eyes shining like polished stone, their bodies unnervingly calm compared to the chaos in my chest. I had heard rumors about the Vayrans arriving, but nobody told me they would want to see me, specifically, by name. I had no time to ask why. The moment I stepped through that door, a young Vayran girl standing at the front of the group turned sharply toward the woman beside her, who I would later learn was her mother and the leader of the entire delegation. Her voice was clear, careful, and shockingly confident as she said the words that would change everything. "He is the one I want to marry." The room froze. Officers behind me stopped breathing. My commanding officer, a stern woman named Ellen Brooks, turned pale, as if she had seen a ghost. I stood there holding a tool bag, blinking, waiting for someone to explain this was a joke, a test, a mistake. But nobody laughed, nobody moved. Ellen stepped forward first, trying to salvage the situation with diplomatic calm. "Forgive me," she said carefully, "but I believe there has been some confusion." The Vayran elder, the girl's mother, did not seem confused at all. Her expression was steady, almost proud, as if she had expected exactly this moment. "There is no confusion," she said through the translation device floating beside her. "My daughter has spoken the truth. This is the man who saved our ship." I frowned, completely lost. I had never even seen a Vayran ship before that day, let alone saved one. But before I could argue, the elder continued. "6 months ago, a research pod from our fleet drifted into your system, damaged and dying. Your station intercepted our distress signal. A young technician rerouted emergency power to keep our life support active until rescue arrived. That technician was you." My mind spun back to that night. I remembered it now, vaguely. An emergency alert, a malfunctioning power grid. I had rerouted the backup systems without even knowing what ship I was helping, then gone back to my quarters and forgotten about it completely. It had felt like just another shift, not a life-changing event. "I did not know who you were," I said honestly. "I was just doing my job." The girl, whose name I would soon learn was Sira, stepped forward with a strange gleam in her dark eyes. "That is exactly why it matters," she said. "You helped us without knowing who we were, without expecting anything in return. Among my people, that kind of action carries the highest possible honor. It creates something we call a life bond." I felt sweat forming on my forehead despite the cold air of the docking bay. "A life bond," I repeated nervously. "Does that mean marriage?" Sira tilted her head, studying my panic with obvious curiosity. "Not exactly as your species understands it," she said. "It means I owe you my life until the debt is repaid." My announcement was a formal declaration, not a romantic proposal. But once made, it cannot be withdrawn easily. It would be considered a great insult to our family if you rejected it outright. I looked toward Ellen for help, but she seemed just as stunned as I was. This was not something covered in any training manual I had ever read. Before I could respond, alarms suddenly blared through the station, sharp and urgent, cutting through the tense moment like a blade. Red lights flashed along the walls. A voice echoed through the speakers, warning of an unknown object approaching the outer perimeter of the station at incredible speed. Every soldier in the room reacted instantly, weapons raised, eyes scanning the corridors. The Vayran guards mirrored the tension, their calm expressions replaced by sharp alertness. Sira grabbed my arm without hesitation, pulling me away from the door, just as a deep tremor shook the entire station. "What is happening?" I shouted over the noise. "Another ship," Sira said quickly. "Not one of ours. Not one of yours either." The lights flickered violently, and for a moment, the entire station plunged into darkness before emergency power kicked in. Through the reinforced windows of the dock, I could see a massive shape looming in the black void outside, its metal hull covered in strange markings none of us recognized. It was not human, it was not Veyron, it was something else entirely, and it was heading straight for the station. Panic spread through the crowd, but Ellen's training kicked in immediately. She barked orders, directing civilians toward safety while pulling security personnel into position. The Veyron elder moved just as fast, coordinating her own guards with practiced precision despite the chaos around us. "We need to reach the central control room," Ellen said, grabbing my shoulder firmly. "Daniel, you know the internal systems better than anyone here. We need you to help us lock down the station before that ship breaches our hull." My hands were shaking, but years of habit forced my body into motion. I ran through the corridors, weaving past frightened crew members, my mind racing faster than my feet. Sierra stayed close behind me the entire time, refusing to be separated despite the danger. "You don't have to follow me," I said breathlessly, as we sprinted down a narrow hallway. "I made a bond," she replied firmly. "Where you go, I go." We reached the control room just as another violent tremor rocked the station. Sparks flew from a damaged control panel nearby, and warning symbols flashed across every screen in the room. I threw myself into the main console, fingers moving rapidly across the controls, trying to reroute power to strengthen the outer shields. "The unknown vessel is attempting to lock onto our docking bay," one of the officers shouted. "If it breaches, we won't be able to hold the corridor." I felt my pulse hammering in my ears as I searched desperately through the system logs. Something about the ship's energy signature felt oddly familiar, like a puzzle I had seen before but couldn't quite place. Then it hit me. The frequency pattern matched an old distress beacon design, one used decades ago by early deep space explorers, before official communication protocols were standardized. "It's not attacking," I said suddenly, my voice cutting through the panic. "Look at the signal pattern. It's broadcasting an old distress call, not a weapons lock." Ellen turned sharply toward me, disbelief evident on her face. "Are you certain?" "I'm certain," I said, forcing steady confidence into my voice despite my racing heart. "That ship isn't here to attack us. It's in trouble, just like the Veyron pod was 6 months ago." The Veyron elder studied me carefully, weighing my words with quiet intensity. "If he is right," she said finally, "then we must respond immediately, not with weapons, but with communication." Ellen hesitated only a moment before nodding firmly. "Do it," she ordered. I quickly adjusted the station's outgoing frequency, matching it precisely to the old distress pattern. Static crackled through the speakers before a broken, weak voice emerged, speaking in a language none of us understood at first. But slowly, painfully, the station's translation systems began piecing together fragments of meaning. The voice belonged to a small crew of explorers from a distant, isolated colony, their ship critically damaged after years of drifting through uncharted space. They had detected our combined human and Veyron signals and, in desperation, altered course toward us, hoping for rescue rather than planning any attack. Relief flooded through the room as the tension finally began to break. Ellen quickly organized a rescue team, working alongside Veyron engineers to guide the damaged vessel safely into the station without further incident. The station's defenses stood down, and what had seemed like an imminent battle transformed instead into an unexpected act of unity between 3 completely different worlds. Hours later, once the crisis had fully passed and the rescued explorers were safely aboard receiving medical care, I finally had a moment to breathe. Sierra found me sitting quietly near the observation window, staring out at the calm stars as if nothing dangerous had happened at all. "You saved them," she said softly, sitting beside me, "just as you saved us." "I just recognized a pattern," I replied modestly. "Anyone could have done it." "No," she said firmly. "Anyone could have looked. Only you chose to understand." I turned to face her, finally allowing myself to relax slightly after the chaos of the day. "About this bond," I said carefully, "I still don't fully understand what it means for my life going forward." Sierra smiled gently, her sharp eyes softening for the first time since we had met. "It does not mean what you fear," she said. "It does not force us into marriage as your culture understands it. It means our people will forever remember your kindness, and I will forever stand beside you as a friend and ally, ready to repay that kindness whenever needed." Relief washed over me, mixed strangely with something else I couldn't quite name. Gratitude, perhaps, or maybe the beginning of an unexpected friendship neither of us had planned for. Ellen approached moments later, her expression finally calm after the exhausting day. "The colony explorers are stable," she reported, "and Veyron High Command has requested a formal alliance meeting, largely because of what happened today." I nodded slowly, still processing everything that had unfolded in just a few short hours. What began as a moment of pure panic and confusion had transformed into something far greater than I ever imagined, a spark that brought 3 different worlds together, through nothing more than honesty, quick thinking, and an unexpected act of kindness months earlier. As the station settled into a quiet, uneasy peace, Sierra remained beside me, watching the stars with newfound respect in her eyes. Whatever the future held for humanity, Veyrons, and now this newly rescued colony, one thing had become clear that day. Sometimes the smallest, most forgotten actions carry consequences far larger than anyone could ever predict, rippling outward across the vastness of space to bring together those who might never have met otherwise.